What's up, Kosovo? This is Coach Q. I'm your host for the upcoming podcast called Never the Right Time. We are on every Tuesdays, 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. 103.5, 105.5 Urban FM. We're going to be talking all things around health, fitness, lifestyle. Please check us out. Here's a quick shout out to our sponsors, 5-Star Fitness and Onze Recovery. 5-Star Fitness goes without saying, we need to be active nowadays. It's a must. And to help with this, 5-Star Fitness, with locations across the country, has established itself as the place to pursue your fitness goals. Now, Onze Recovery, let's talk about stress from daily life, leaving us depleted, in need of that reboot. Onze Recovery offers different types of therapies to help you recover from the daily stresses, especially when we are limited with time. Welcome back to another episode of Never the Right Time on Urban FM 103.5, 105.5 FM. This is your host, Coach Q. Quick shout out to our sponsors. We have 5-Star Fitness, Onze Recovery, and Menda Salon. And today I'm here with Bronwyn Jones.
Hey.
Thank you for joining me. Bronwyn and we met...
At a party.
Yes, at a party. That's right. I was really intrigued by your story of like how you ended up in Kosovo already. I think amongst expats like myself too, like it's already kind of like, it's a kind of a unique journey in itself. But let's kick off this conversation with a quick introduction around who you are, what you do, and where you do it at, and then we can dive into, 'cause, there's lots to talk about.
Yeah, hey, my name is Bronwyn Jones. I am the executive director at New Perspectiva, which is, slow down.
No, we can keep going. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm the executive director at New Perspectiva, which is an NGO that works on multiethnic relations, primarily, particularly within media and education here in Kosovo. And we work with a lot of different communities, in fact, all communities. And I also do journalism work. And so that's a day job.
Okay. But then we got quite immersed into sort of discussing what you do outside of your day job. But happy to talk about also what you do during your day.
You don't have to talk about my day job. My side hustle is running a women's rugby league here called Revolution Rugby. So what we decided to do is set up some multi-ethnic women's rugby teams here in Kosovo to make sure that all women could have a chance to play rugby and have fun and enjoy themselves doing it and have an opportunity to really appreciate the sport. Mm-hmm. So originally, I don't know how far you want me to go back, but originally I started the first women's rugby team here called Balkan Lynx a few years ago. Basically, I had been moving in and out of Kosovo doing different jobs here and there, and I had just come back from Afghanistan, and I was really, I guess, out of shape is the best way to put it. But I hated going to the gym. So I just thought to myself, I'd really rather play a sport because, I grew up playing sports. So I really like playing sports. And I just like scoring against somebody else. I guess basically that's my thing. And I really loved, I followed rugby for a long time. I really love rugby. I met this guy at the beer garden pub. Here in Pristina. And I said to him, look, he said, I'm a rugby coach. I said, well, if you're a rugby coach and you're not really coaching right now anybody because nobody's playing, I said, let's put together a women's team and yada, yada, yada. Next thing you know, we will play women's rugby. And he said, no woman will play rugby here. And I said, I think you're wrong. So we set out to prove him wrong. Our first session was in Gurmia Park, and we only had 4 people, but that was okay. That was the start. And we went ahead and we started playing, and it started growing and growing and growing. And at our top level, we had about 35 women playing in our club.
Oh, wow.
And then we kept Balkan Lynx going. for a while, and it's still going, I should say. But then it was like, after the pandemic hit, everything really stopped. Then we
when did the session of 4 people start, in terms of like how much before the pandemic was this?
Oh, quite a bit. It was about 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, 2017. Sorry, 2017. So a while ago. And
so the birth of, or the start of women's rugby in Kosovo was roughly around then.
Yeah. November. And I remember because we were freezing cold. And
wow. Like, talk about the odds of already getting something going, but then in the harshest conditions kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it was freezing cold. It was muddy. We finished our first session and we all went home and couldn't sit on the toilet. I mean, that's where we were. We were like, I had to pee like a cow because we were all standing. We were all literally, we could not sit. That's how tough it was. But it was good. We stuck with it. And we got into really good shape.
Yeah.
And it was great. It just became once, the thing is about sport, you can watch it on TV all you want to, and you can commentate and you can say, I would do this or I'd do this or whatever. Yeah. But it's when you play it and when you really get into it as yourself physically and mentally, that it really opens up for you, and you really understand it, and you really understand yourself. And the great thing about rugby is, of course, a lot of people here ask me, that's American football and blah, blah, and it's not American football. It's a European sport. It comes from England, rugby, England. And, but it also is very much a team sport, so you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. The basics are you throw back and you run forward. And so it's a great thing because you have to have your teammates with you. You have to have that support with you. You can't just do it. People sometimes think, when I'm training girls, they think, I'm just going to be here running through and be the one. And it's like, no, you can't do it on your own. And that's kind of like life. You can't do it on your own. You need support. Everybody needs support at some point or other.
There's a real strong sense of solidarity, right?
Yeah.
My experience with rugby is very minimal. I think I've attended 2 maybe rugby 7 practice sessions. And I mean, it was rugby 7s, and maybe this is something that we need to explain to the audience, rugby 7s, and then there's rugby 15s, the original game, right?
Yeah.
But 7s or 15s, it's done on the same size field, right? It's basically like a football pitch, size. Yeah. So already to cover that much ground was really physically demanding. And then, as you mentioned, I still don't have a very good grasp of the rules, but in terms of the passing, you could not be in front, right? You have to be in a line.
Not necessarily. You can be in front, but you have to pass backwards.
Right. Okay. So there's no forward passing, which is the big difference in American football, where you can just throw right in front of you.
Yeah.
Right?
You can kick forward, but you have to pass backwards and run forwards. And that's the whole point. Everyone has to have that support. And the difference is, so when we talk about rugby, we talk about rugby union, which is one form of the sport.
Okay.
And you have it in 15s. You have it in 7s. You also can play 10s, and you can also play 5s, which is usually played on beach, or we call that beach rugby or snow rugby. And so but the rules are basically the same. You have to get to the other side of the pitch with the ball and put it down. And that's how you score.
That's called a try. Right?
That's called a try. And then but all the while you're doing it, somebody else is coming to knock you over, which is called a tackle. And then you need to be able to throw the ball backwards and run forwards. So it's really important that you do have your team with you, and you're all working together as a team, and you have that communication, and that's really important. And I really appreciate that about the sport, because it really taught me about working even more as a team and working together and, and having that togetherness. And I think that's really good for all people here, but especially for women, because it really brings that sense of solidarity and teamwork together for women. Women don't have many spaces on their own here, like just a woman's space outside of maybe, say, an NGO or something like this. Okay. And so here's an opportunity in a sport, to have that space where you can meet women from all sorts of different places, and you can work together. And now with Revolution Rugby, we don't really, Balkan Links had a lot of foreign, expats within it, which is fine. It's great. Super. Yeah. But with Revolution Rugby, we really focused on a bit of a younger crowd. So more teenagers, early 20s, and from different communities. So we have Roma, Ashkali, and Albanian playing. And for instance, they often play together. So it's fantastic. So people mix it up. We have a Syrian refugee who plays with us as well. So it's it is a mix, but it's mostly a mix from Kosovo as opposed to being, from lots of foreigners and that sort of thing. And my team that I work with to create this and do this is Assist Kosovo, which is a local NGO run by a great woman called Visari Berisha. And my other coach, I can't not mention her, Manire Berisha, who runs Pristina Jets, which is one of our team. We have two teams, Pristina Jets and Mitrovica Dragons. And Manire, who is really well known here in Kosovo for running, she's the physical education director at Ismail Chamali School on Sunny Hill. So Bregu Diele. And so she's like really fantastic. And as a coach, even though I taught her a sport of rugby, she taught me how to be a coach, and she taught me how to really engage even better with people and get girls out there and get them playing and get them working together and creating that real sense of something. So I have to say Manire is amazing. I know she's extremely well known in Pristina particularly. But yeah, I just have to give a real shout out to her and a real shout out to Visari Berisha at Assist Kosovo, who really does an amazing job. It's a women's NGO and it's focused on women's issues. And so I do that, we could not have done this without her support. Yeah. And it's a lot of support she's given us. So we've done that. And I also have to thank Ulex, who's also given us a lot of support in terms of, lots of different ways and giving us lots of exposure and that sort of thing. So we have to really think that. And also we've had some really good cooperation. Sorry if I'm going on a bit, but
no, not at all.
With Meridian Grocery Stores, which has supported our camp. Also Night Design, New Social Initiativa, which is another NGO, which is based in the north, Mitrovica North, which is fantastic and helped and supported through the Linking Through Lenses Challenge, supported our camp. We did the first rugby camp for girls, women and girls in Kosovo that ended in October 1st last year. So it was amazing. We brought over a special coach from Bulgaria, a woman named Anna Anjiva, and she's just amazing. So I played against her a lot. And so I knew she would be a good coach, and she was. And we had just this. It's just been an amazing experience working with Revolution Rugby, and that's why we really feel very protective of it as a project, because we think that, everyone talks a lot about reconciliation or talks a lot about, how can we bring in social inclusion and how can we do that? And we think this is... We show you, we don't
sports is powerful, right?
Yeah. And it's amazing to have women and girls playing together from different communities here, getting on, appreciating each other. We had our Women's Day meeting together with the two clubs, and they hung out and they all played together. And they were just, at the end of the day, they were just rugby girls doing rugby things, And
I think that's really that's a point that I think we had a chat about as well. outside of this conversation where like, yeah, it doesn't matter, right? Race, ethnicity, size, shape, form. Like once you step on that field, it's rugby.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a great thing about rugby is also it doesn't matter what your shape is, how big you are, how small you are, how if you look quote unquote athletic or you know what I mean? You know, we have a place for you in rugby. There's a place for the big girls, there's a place for the small girls, there's a place for the little short girls, there's a place for the skinny girls. Are you fast? Great, you're on a wing. If you're powerful, great, you're going up the middle. If did you lose weight? Great. Move down a bit, you know, and, you know, and there you go. There's something, we always have a place for everybody and it doesn't matter. And trust me, every person out there, I don't know if you agree with me, but every person out there has an athletic skill, which they can use in somehow. And this is a great thing about rugby as a team sport. There's always something you can do, you know, and for me, it was really fantastic because I'm a slow runner, you know. I'm not getting on that pitch fast, but I'll get it. I'll get there. but you know, I think all my life when I was playing sports, like I grew up playing football, I grew up playing volleyball and basketball and that sort of thing, you know. I mean, I was always, you know, I did athletics, but I was always a strong girl, you know. You know, I could throw, I could hit. I did fencing. You know, even horseback riding, I could throw, I could hit, I could ride a horse, I was like a medieval knight, you know, but I could stab you, I could do all sorts of things. But, you know, people think, oh, well, she's not that fast of a runner, so she's not that great. But, you know, in rugby, that's okay because I'm a prop. So I play what they call a tight head prop position in sevens rugby. And I can push you out of the way. I can take you with me. I discovered so much about myself that I could do that I didn't know that I could do.
And I think like part of one of the beautiful things about a sport like rugby is where different positions, different roles, like, you know, they play their own part, right? There's always something for someone to do. And I mean, even if we take a step back and just look at sports, like there's so many different sports and even movement or exercise or ways of training. Again, you know, you have like calisthenics to bodybuilding to you name it, right? So it's sort of, I think part of it is a question of maybe exposure. And then part of it's also like having the courage to try something, right? And I think what's really remarkable and interesting, at least for myself, is already like if we go back, like you guys starting with 4. I mean, you were a beginner, right, in the first session and 4 people. Like, I mean, you don't even have enough for a team, right? Yeah. And that gradually, and I guess. At the time, was it just expats in the beginning?
At the first session, it was just expats. But then we grew to have, probably by the third session, we started having, second or third, we started having locals who joined us. So it was very quick. It wasn't like...
I mean, that's incredible too, right?
Yeah, basically, we all agreed to grab our friends.
So we're kind of forced to play.
It's like, hey, you're coming. Oh, I hear you like to run. You're coming. You know, that kind of a thing. Okay. And some women had never played sport before. You know, and just like my girls now, I have some girls now who have never played sport before. Yeah. But, you know, they find out, oh, my goodness, I can do it, you know? Yeah. And that's really important for them to get that realization, because if you're confident in your body, you're confident, you know, if you're strong, if you see you can do these things phically.
It's about the opportunity, right? It's like, hey, just give it a try. You might surprise yourself. Right?
Yeah, and we don't charge for our sessions, so you can come and you can play with us for free. Okay. And you just basically have to sort of buy a mouth guard, which is about €3 or €4 you can buy it for, and and your boots eventually.
Yeah.
But that's it. Other than that, we really don't charge. And if you can't even buy those things, we'll figure out a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a whole closet full, so
Okay.
I mean, I can, occasionally we have to lend out a few things, but that's okay. But we will sort it out so everybody can play. The whole idea for us is everybody has access.
Right. So, I mean, and then the other thing is also, rugby is not the sport that's, let's say, obvious to everyone, right? So, for the most part, probably, let's say, football, basketball are two of the major sports, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? You've seen it in TV, or like maybe you've never played, but you have an image, right? And rugby, again, maybe not so much, right? So, and then to understand the rules, right? Like the barrier for entry might not necessarily, I mean, you are providing an environment for them to at least show up, right? But again, then it's like you're fighting for their attention, like, at the end of the practice, like you have to have enjoyed it a little bit.
Well, that's
right to kind of, because I'm sure there's been probably enough people where it's like, this isn't for me.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's not a problem. It's not for everybody.
Sure.
For some people, maybe you want to golf. That's okay. That's cool. And that's your sport. Or maybe you want to play tennis, or maybe you want to do, I grew up playing tennis too, and volleyball and basketball and like football. But I think if you give it a try, you might like it and you might want to stick with it. And that's the most important thing. And I think the more important thing is to get people involved, get women particularly involved in sport.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's more important. I think that's even most important. Yeah, of course, some people are not going to stick with it because it's not. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's super, super, super easy, because once women...
It's physically, it's mentally, it's demanding all around, right?
Yeah, it's great fun. And as women in this region, primarily, we play sevens.
Yeah.
And so, as you said, it's on a football pitch. You got to run that ball down the pitch, and it's great, but it's also, by the end of a tournament, you're sort of sat there going, yeah, that was rough. That was great, but let me fall asleep here.
Yeah.
But it's also so much fun. I think that once you play your first match, it really becomes addictive, and some people get scared off by, you do tackle, you have to be tackled as well. And it was quite funny when I was working with my Roma girls up in the north. They were just like, yeah, that's no problem. We'll just do it. Boom, boom, boom. And they were so happy to get into it, and I love that about them. But for some people, it can be like, oh my goodness, someone's going to come towards me and I have this ball in my hand and da-da-da. So some people have to work through that a little bit and some people don't. And it's just about how you can handle it yourself. But even if this isn't your sport as a woman or girl, I would say you should definitely try and have a sport for the rest of your life. And that you play, that's a lifelong sport for you. For me, it will be, for sure, I'll be playing rugby till I'm like, they drag me off the pitch at 98, whatever. That's what I hope. But, I also, but our girls sometimes do play football. I have one girl who does play football and plays rugby. I have another girl who plays basketball and rugby.
Right.
So in playing 2 or 3 sports really helps you a lot, because you can transfer a lot of those skills you get from all of those sports into different.
But working as a team, right? Or really like that kind of social bonding, that social, social functioning, right? I think that's valuable when also, in some environments, maybe the opportunity is scarce, right? To do so.
Yeah, well, it's really good. Yeah, and you need it for work. You need it for, your professional life. You need it ball handling is really important in basketball. We've had basketball players from here, professional basketball players from here play with us sometimes, and they've been great to play with. And I think also learning just the principles of doing sport, which often is not taught in a lot of schools here. So that's really important that girls have that opportunity to learn those principles of sport. And also the discipline required. You got to show up on time. You got to be ready to play. You got to, be here, be with your kit ready on, cut your, and sometimes it takes a little bit of sacrifice. So no, you're not going to be going to the nail salon and getting your talons done if you're playing rugby or any other sport. So, those types of things like, okay, I've got to do this. Or if I don't show up today, that's going to hurt my team because they have
you need a certain number of people too, like
exactly.
Depending on sort of what you guys have planned, right?
Exactly.
If it's a scrimmage, then yes, absolutely. If it's more maybe some physical conditioning, okay. But then it still comes down to, if you don't show up, then, or if you're not putting in as much work because it's such a physically demanding sport, then you might be letting your team down on the pitch, right? When you do have to play together. Yeah.
And then some days, and then your team really wants to kill you because if, you guys like decide, we're going to go out and, have fun tonight and, I'll just skip it tomorrow, then that's going to be that's going to be fitness day for the girls and they're going to be really mad at you for making them go through extra fitness because they don't have enough players maybe to actually play.
So you have to, adapt to that situation then have to change like maybe the content of the session.
But it's important, and I think it's always but people, of course, my girls, I complained about doing my fitness as well because it's hard when you have to go do your running and do your, your push-ups and your this and your that, and this very well. And if you want to progress further in the sport, you must be fit. But we, and everybody sort of has to come over that and has to deal with that and learn it. But I think the more you play the sport, you realize how much that fitness helps you play the sport. And that's when it really becomes fun because you're like, okay, if I want to do this better, I've got to do those 100 push-ups, I've got to get through this. I've got to lift those weights, and lifting the weights, and, and some women I know are very frightened of lifting weights and that sort of thing. But it's actually really important to be physically strong for your own health as well as being physically strong for a sport.
Well, I think this is a quote from Mark Bell, who's like an American power lifter. He's an influencer as well as like, he's quite, I think he's had numerous records. He was a bodybuilder, but he has a quote where strength is never a weakness and weakness is never a strength.
Yeah.
Right. And that's literally the case. Right. I want to just maybe go a little bit back. So in terms of like from, those sessions where you were grabbing your friends, right? And then like, obviously we talked about this outside the podcast where like, it's not sustainable with just expats, right? And you probably had enough that were, that could keep the team going, at least the was it the Balkan Links in the beginning? But expats come and go, right? Depending on how long their mission is. So like if this was supposed to kind of provide for, the opportunities that we're kind of discussing as well and go beyond that, then of course it needs to kind of infiltrate the local communities, the local population, right? So was it a case of sort of, okay, friend of friend, and then enough people were like, hey, this is kind of cool, then they'd bring their friends? When was there a moment where you're like, hey, we're onto something? Like this is kind of becoming I don't know if sustainable is the right word, but like this isn't fizzling out,
Yeah, I think it was probably February 2018 something like that around that period.
So less than a year since you guys started, right?
Yeah, I kind of knew it was becoming something a bit more than I thought it was becoming. You know, it was certainly at this point more than just like, hey, I'm hanging out and I'm getting fit and I'm having some fun, you know, tossing a ball around and playing a game.
Yeah.
It was more like at that point, you know, you could see the changes within at that point we had more locals than we had expats.
Okay.
And
how many, like, just to give an idea?
Like
roughly?
Maybe it was like we had about 10 or 15 locals, and then maybe the smaller, maybe like 8 or 9 or 10. Like it was probably 10 or 15 locals and maybe like 10 expats or something.
So like from 4 people to like roughly 25 people in a couple months, in a few months, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, the reason we got all these people, not only people were bringing friends and friends, but every single week we would advertise on Facebook.
Okay.
And we would put, you know, we obviously set up a Facebook page, and I would put notices in every single group, like Network Pristina activities. So, you know, you constantly kept putting these things every single week, inviting people to come.
Yeah.
But what I noticed was that a lot of the local girls who came really, I don't want to say were changed, you know, it was just giving them opportunities which they never had before in some cases.
Right.
You know, a lot of them were students at the, you know, University of Pristina. Some were just, you know, sort of starting out in their careers or something. And it was very new, and it was very, and the mix of people, you know, starting to talk to each other, and the plans we were making, and the group fun, and it became a social thing as well, you know, a little bit. And it just really became something very interesting.
Yeah.
And I realized that what we were able to do was actually make a bit of a difference, and it was going to be sustainable. It was maybe after that period that we thought we really had to focus on getting, like I said, for Revolution Rugby, when I set that up after the pandemic, we really had to focus on getting locals, because it wasn't going to last. Because you're right, foreigners are only here for a short time, you know. There just wasn't that, you know, even though we had locals who were playing, some locals would come and they would leave themselves. You know, some of them would move abroad, some of them would stay, but, you know, moved on with their lives and wanted to do something else, you know. All of that happened. But what I realized with Revolution Rugby was, in order to keep it going and to keep it moving, it had to be a local thing. Sure. You know. And I mean, I could give it a push, but I cannot necessarily just, you know, keep it moving. Do you know what I mean? And it was the same thing when, after pandemic, we had to sort of revive Balkan Links as well, you know, so it had gone down a bit. But there were 2 local women who were playing for it, and one was Adona Haradina, who's still there, and who does a great job of trying to keep it moving, keep it focused, and keep it running. But what you really need is that people starting at a maybe younger period in their lives. And so we started with teenagers. And I mean, this doesn't mean I don't play. I mean, we're going to do a tournament next month, and yes, I will be playing. But I mean,
awesome, that's great. Yeah.
But you know, the idea is that they need to grow into it. And once I've had players who've played for 4 or 5 years or something like that, then they'll stick with it, and then they'll hopefully move on and do things. And one of the things we'd like to see, you know, one of the things our goal is to have, you know, sevens rugby is an Olympic sport. So we really would like to see a national women's sevens team here. We'd like to see a national women's 15s team here. You know, rugby is the fastest growing sport for women around the world. The world.
Wow.
You know, where it's huge. Like when you talk about in the UK, 40,000 people are coming out to Twickenham to see the Red Roses, the English Red Roses, play Ireland this weekend. And they're not playing Ireland. Actually, they're playing Wales. They're playing Wales this weekend, my team. So I should know this. So they're playing Wales this weekend in the Six Nations. 40,000 people. Yeah. Sophie Ellis-Bextor is playing is doing the halftime show. When you go to places even as far-flung as Madagascar, you're seeing 70,000 people coming out to see women's playing, their national women's team playing.
Okay.
In Uganda, you're seeing huge numbers of women playing. Laos, same thing. Even in Syria, in Israel, in all of these, in the United States, it's huge in the United States as well. Sevens particularly is huge big in the United States. So these are, and of course New Zealand and Australia and the traditional countries, New Zealand, Australia, England, France, Ireland, Wales, Scotland. Of course it's huge, but Italy as well, Germany as well. All of these places, Netherlands, all of these places have strong women's rugby. And the great thing about the sport is that if you get into it and you're really and you're good at it, you can get scholarships to universities in England, France, United States, Canada. Particularly, Canada is a huge women's rugby country. New Zealand, Australia, all of these places, you can, if you're really, really good, you can turn professional, and you can play professional leagues in England and Wales and in different countries in New Zealand. So this is a sport for women, offers a lot of opportunities professionally, just socially, on a grassroots level. But in order to build the sport, you have to start from the grassroots, which means getting out into different cities, working with the communities, finding out how you can...
There needs to be the minimum exposure, right?
Exactly.
It needs to be seen, right?
Exactly. And you need to go and play. And you need to we've done promotions in Klina, and we're hoping to expand shortly into Klina, Istok, and Pea, into Jakova again. And so we really want to get out there and to make sure that all these smaller places have that exposure, because it gives these women and girls and opportunities in these places to have a door open for them that they've never maybe would not have opened.
Yeah,
for them.
And it's probably one that isn't top of mind kind of thing, right? Because rugby is sort of it literally is a foreign sport, and when you don't know something, you don't know it, right? Obviously, and then also I think in terms of they wouldn't probably put two and two together, where if you take it to a certain degree, yes, there are these maybe opportunities to maybe go abroad, right? To an environment that is much more advanced when it comes to rugby, and then there's all these other opportunities that maybe comes with it in terms of maybe to study a foreign language or such, right?
Yeah, well, for us, for Lynx, we traveled to Bulgaria, Greece, all of these places. For my girls now, for Revolution Rugby, we're traveling. Mitrovica Dragons is traveling to Bar, Montenegro to play their first tournament ever next month, in a few weeks, actually 3 weeks, on the 14th. So to have the opportunity, this is the first time some of them have had the opportunity to really travel, outside of maybe North Macedonia or Albania at the most. So this is something really, the idea is to say, here's the door, you can go through it. And they're going to go to Bulgaria this year. They're going to go to Greece. So, they're going to have these opportunities to travel where they haven't had these opportunities before, and to meet people from other places with other ideas, with other cultures. Yeah.
With rugby being the common language, kind of.
Yeah.
It's a number of opportunities. It's first, for some of these girls and ladies, it's their foray into exercise, right? Physical fitness. I mean, that's already like the first opportunity, I guess, right? And then also an exposure to maybe a sport. I mean, that's, and this is something we can maybe discuss that kind of goes against social norms as well, right? And that's probably another challenge that you face in terms of like a sport that requires physical contact, right? Like that's already probably for a lot. They're like, oh no, that's not for me, kind of thing, right? And thus you see maybe the difference from the backgrounds, right? You mentioned like the Roma are maybe a little bit more, I guess, comfortable with that, or like they're much more open to...
the Roma Ashkali girls are really like, hello, let's go have some fun, and I'm gonna and they have no problem. And I was like, thank goodness I don't have to do that bit. But they love it. They love the physicality of it. And they're really good at the physicality of it, which takes a lot of mental strength, is intelligence. People don't think it takes a lot of intelligence, but it really does, to get your timings right.
This isn't just brute violence or anything, right? It can appear violent, like when there's two individuals with a lot of force clashing, right? Yes, but it's not. The intention is like to either protect or move the ball or whatever, right? Like it's not just completely like blindly, let's just crash into people, right?
You have to use technique. Because you as a tackler are responsible for making sure that the person you tackle comes down safely. And you have to make sure that person is safe. And you have to make sure you yourself is safe. That's why we have technique. And people think it really hurts bad. It might give you a little bit of a stun, but it does not hurt you in that sense of causing you pain. And you also learn how to fall, you learn how to hit, you learn how to, and you learn these techniques for how to protect yourself as the tackled person and as the tackler. And those are really, really, I think, important skills to learn, your own strength and your own ability to control your own strength as well. And I think that's super important. And I think the girls love it because it's like playing a dance, and it's almost like dancing in a way, you know what I mean? And even when you're in the tackle and you have the ruck, which is when people are on the ground and you tackle person on the ground, and you have to sort of compete with the team for the ball, there's rules about keeping people safe, and you have to stay safe. That person has to stay safe. In this sense, both teams are working together. So yes, we're fighting for the ball, but we're also working together to stay safe as well. And those are really important things to understand and to know how to do within rugby and how it works. So I think those are important life lessons, and I think those are important sports lessons.
It certainly strikes me as a sport where the kind of overcoming adversity, right, on different kind of degrees, where like it might be the initial like kind of shock of like, wow, this is so physically demanding, right? And then trying to get into rugby shape, right? Because I think I think it's not just limited to rugby by any means, where I think more and more people are realizing that maybe even if you need to go jogging, like, there are prerequisites for whatever you want to do, for most things that you would like to do, whether it's jogging to rugby to football to tennis, well, you name it, right? But often we just kind of dive into it, right?
Right.
And that's where maybe the injuries can happen, or but so the already trying to overcome the adversity of like, oh wow, like my heart is about to explode, I need to right. And then also the kind of one-on-one, whether it's like being tackled or tackling yourself, and then I guess in the scrimmage kind of situation where there's adversity as a team, you're trying to kind of like push the other team back, right? And then of course you have trying to win the game versus losing, like the feelings that come after that too, right? And then, unfortunately, like with physical sports, like injuries happen too. So then there's also that kind of adversity that some unfortunately have to face, right? So like it's I think on many levels, like it's something that can teach these girls, these ladies, like that lesson, right?
Yeah, I think one thing is that what I always tell them is that losing is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, of course, you don't want to lose, but you learn a lot of lessons from losing. And it helps you to understand what you can do better. Yeah, and I think that's something that's really important. People don't quite get it. I mean, I don't like losing. Nobody likes losing. But
yeah, if you're going to play, you want to win, right?
But on the other hand, you learn something about going against someone who's better than you and who you have to keep up with and who you have to raise your game for. I have a girl right now in the North Dasharia who's, everyone looks at her and goes, oh my gosh, you're the best player. She's really, really good. No one can stop her, and when she's rushing through people and she's fantastic. But I said, you're going to meet someone one day who's going to be a little bit bigger, better, than you.
Stronger. Right?
Yeah, faster. And you're going to have to learn how to deal with that and what you can do to do with that. And that's something that they'll learn eventually. I mean, I'm not worried about it. It'll be coming down the line.
I mean, it's also how you look at sort of what constitutes as a win too, right? Like the fact that like there is this opportunity is already a win in itself, right? True. For some of these girls to kind of like find this outlet that then can maybe lead to something else, right? Where it's already I think it's the importance of physical activity for your own health and fitness, but then also to kind of start to have this team, a social outlet, a bit of a community too, right? To kind of then like we all have this kind of common interests in rugby to kind of sit around and chat. Obviously play the game, but then it spills over to after the practices and the games too, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like probably 3 of my closest friends are from rugby. And I know many women, rugby has opened up many doors for me in terms of meeting women who play the sport, coaches, women across this region, working with them. It's fantastic in that sense because for me personally, I can say it's opened up the doors to some of my closest friends who I still talk with every single, opportunity we get a chance to, and we meet up every opportunity we get a chance to. And that's something that's really great, and that's something that we share and we came up with, and I think that makes us, in a way, a lot closer as well. We can, go back and laugh at our times playing, especially with the Balkan Lynx at the beginnings. We had some fun times, and I'm not going to mention them here. But
maybe at the beer garden, catch you on an off night
over a drink or something, perhaps, but not. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, so then you mentioned the Balkan Lynx that's a team in Pristina. Is it?
It's still playing.
And then there is the Mitrovica Dragons.
Yeah.
You mentioned another team, right?
Yeah, and Pristina Jets, and those are our 2 teams that we have now.
That you're working under the umbrella of Revolution Rugby.
Yeah, so Pristina Jets and Mitrovica Dragons. And then there's another women's team called Balkan Lynx. And they're still playing. I think they play every Saturday at Prince, and we play every Saturday at Ismail Chamali School for Pristina Jets, and as well at FC Australia for Mitrovica Dragons.
Okay. And then I remember, was there a team in Jakova as well?
There was a team in Jakova. They were also called the Dragons. And then they have, they've closed down. We moved them basically to Mitrovica. Okay. And then we're thinking of opening up another one now. Yeah, there as well.
Okay. So then currently there's 3 active teams in Kosovo.
Women's girls teams.
And then each team is, and are they? How big are the teams? Are they, I mean, they differ in size, or?
In Mitrovica, that's our for us. That's our largest team, and that's about right now we're running about 15.
Okay.
And they go down to some younger ages. And right now in Pristina, we're running about 10.
Okay.
So, it's a bit smaller. For our tournaments that we're going to now, like, for instance, we're doing this tournament in Montenegro. We can only take our girls above 15 to go. So we'll be taking some of our girls. Some of our girls will be coming to hang out.
Yeah.
Some of our girls will be staying behind and being, but, you'll
You
grow.
want to include everyone as much as possible, but
you'll grow. And then we're thinking about doing, like I said, after we come back from Montenegro, and later in April, we're doing a bigger event. We've already done an event in Klina in November last year. We're going to bring the Klina girls, plus some girls from Istok and from Bea, and we're going to bring them all together. We're going to do a big event there and start other clubs.
Okay.
And we're doing that. And IOM has reached out and is helping us with some of the outreach for that.
Yeah.
And so, so we're really happy about that.
Because right now, in terms of sort of, I imagine there's a certain amount of funding like that needs to happen, right? So I guess Revolution Rugby is kind of spearheading these efforts, but you're looking all over, right, for any help that you can get.
I'm in the middle of fundraising, writing proposals now and fundraising. And with the help of our sponsors, we really want to try and really expand it, particularly in April and May, in June, and really when we get to the nice weather as well. We have another tournament we want to play in Burgas in August, at the beginning of August, Burgas, Bulgaria, and that will be beach rugby. And so, I'm really looking forward to that. I've been going to it every year for a long time, and so it's run by friends of mine, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a great tournament, and it's a great tournament also if you're beginning to play rugby to go to, because it's kind of calm, it's nice, you're on a beach, on a beautiful beach in Bulgaria, and then you play and everything's taken care of for you, and it's fantastic. So and it's such a big tournament too, because they have teams from Romania, Bulgaria, Greece.
So the exposure level is that much bigger, right?
It's huge, and it's fantastic. So you can literally play as a woman almost anywhere in the Balkans. It's really good in that sense. And you can get to travel, but you can literally play all over the world, as I noted, right? And so it's just something that you can take everywhere with you. So even if you are leaving Kosovo and decide to go to university somewhere else, you can rock up to your local rugby club and say, hey, can I come in and, boot up and, play with you for a bit? And they'll be like, yeah, come on in. And you'll have an instant community. Yeah.
So now, like, one thing is, I know there is like a men's national team, right? So the rugby men's is a little bit further down this journey kind of thing. With the 3 teams that are active for the women's, and I'm assuming they're predominantly local, from the local communities, right? Then I guess probably also, what are the ages?
They range from like 14 to all the way to probably late 20s, 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then is there an initiative, I guess, is there work towards creating a women's national team?
Yeah, I think that's the idea eventually.
Okay.
We really need, for us, we're, as Revolution Rugby, we're not part of the federation yet. But we really need to work on that and to see. I mean, it's eventually going to take.
This is the Kosovo Rugby Federation. Okay.
They're going to need to, show an effort towards that, I guess. So,
Right.
Yeah, they would have to pay for it and take care of it and do all that. Yeah. For us, our focus, I mean, eventually, of course, we would like to see that. That's certainly something we would definitely want to see. But our focus is
just
grassroots.
establishing in these communities already a team, right? And then I mean, this is the groundwork, right? I guess.
This is the hard work that people really don't realize how much of it is hard work, because it's a new sport, and you're bringing a new sport, and you're saying, okay, you know, to do it, you have to have it. I guess the word is you really need that community buy-in. You need people from that community to come and support it, and to come and to help. And this takes a lot of time. It takes effort. It takes money. Money. It takes all of these things. You know, you can't buy a rugby ball in Kosovo. I think Valera Sports said they were hopefully going to get them in this fall, but or soonest.
Which is the piece of equipment that you would need, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know, and that's, you know, we have to. I have to bring them over from different countries to have them. So we need to. There's loads and loads of things to work on to make it accessible for people here, to make it common for people here, like it is in Croatia, like it is in Greece or Bulgaria, like it is in these places, or in Montenegro. You have to make it accessible. You have to work at it to do that. And the thing of it is, you have to have local. And you really need that local leadership in order to do it. And so we're lucky because, you know, I have Minire and I have, you know, Visare working with me.
Some valuable partners that are kind of buying into this and like, hey, let's work on this, right?
Yeah, and who are really dedicated and say, you know, and put up with all my nonsense as well. And, you know, and are really dedicated to that sort of thing. And they work forward. And also, you know, we have locals up in the north, like Nana, my girls, Nana and Nazara, who work on getting the girls out and spread the word in the community. So we have these activists who do this. Yeah. And that's what we need in every single community. So the other thing for Revolution Rugby is we really focus, like I said, we call it rugby for women by women. So this is a group of women who are getting together. It's really important to note that. It's not that we're saying no to men or anything else like this, but it's really important that women get together and work for women. And that's part of it too, because we want to be able to, for instance, train our coaches and train our, you know, and train officials eventually, because maybe some of these girls will want to coach. Maybe some of these girls will want to be official, you know, referee. And, you know, and we want them to get that training. And this requires some work on behalf of everyone, because, you know, not everyone in this, you know, we sort of have this imagination, and I guess it's because, you know, in Pristina you think, oh, everyone speaks English and everyone, you know, whatever, but not everyone does speak English. And you know, you need to make these things accessible in local languages, in Albanian, in Serbian, 2 official languages. You need to make it accessible for people to make it their own, and it has to be
because it's a shame, like, you know, that if it is a language thing and then that forbids or prevents someone, or, you know, because you're also the competition isn't just it's whatever takes up their attention, right? And their time and effort, right? And like the more, let's say, perceived obstacles or challenges, because it could be, I mean, a nice day and it's like, well, I just want to go have a coffee, and that's it, right? Like you're competing with that as well, right? In some ways. And so if like English is I don't feel comfortable. So, you know, I think a lot of people understand and they speak, but they're just not comfortable.
Exactly.
You know, so then you want to remove that barrier, right?
Exactly. You really want to say to people, look, we welcome you no matter what your community you're from. You know, come here. What do you need? You want this translated for you? We'll translate it for you, you know, and we'll make it really accessible for you to be able to be a part of it. Sometimes, I think sometimes it is forgotten in a lot of places that you have to make things, you have to do things to make things a little bit easier for people.
Yeah.
Yes, you want them to join in, but yes, and you want them to be, to understand your values and that sort of thing. But you also have to sort of come to them as well.
Yeah, it's like, in an ideal world, you want to meet halfway. But in this case, you almost have to be like across the other side of the field. Like
Exactly.
go to their side, right?
Exactly. You have to be proactive in that sense. And so this is why we really focus on women physical education teachers in Kosovo. So we have another one in Klina who we want to train. And by training these physical education teachers, then I'm sort of like waving around here, but then
Imagine it's a green screen, like, the meteorologist, like talking about the weather and stuff. Right?
I'm like getting physically, but then if we spread the sport, because then they know, okay, then I can play it in school, and I can teach people in school how to play it. And now that I have a little bit of training, I know how to do this. Yeah. And so this is why it was really important for us to go through the schools, to work with people that we knew, with women that we knew, because it makes also for the girls more comfortable, for their parents more comfortable. Sometimes in certain communities here, they're much more conservative than in other parts.
Sure. Yep.
So, they feel more comfortable if their daughter is working in a female environment. And that's one of our strengths, is that, you're going to be coached by a woman, or you're going to have a woman there to, help you through it. So, you don't have to feel uncomfortable with, not being able to wear shorts because you don't want to do this in front of a man. You can wear your shorts, you can wear your t-shirts, we're all women here. Yeah. We're all doing the sport, and we're all showing you how we can do it, and that it's not impossible for you to do it. And that's really important, I think, for certain communities, and also if you're a hijabi, for instance, a lot of hijabis don't feel that they can play sports, but they can. They have, in rugby, we have regulation hijabs, to play. So even if you're, you want to stay covered up, you want to stay modest, you can do that as well within rugby. So, and we don't have, a lot of people also, if they know anything about rugby, they think it's a bunch of guys, big guys, who are going out to drink a whole bunch of beers afterwards and da-da-da. And there is that aspect of rugby, but for us, we don't do that. There's nobody rushing out afterwards to, pile down the beers and, this kind of thing. Some people are not comfortable with that. And, and there's a very famous rugby player called Maro Itoje who plays for, the England national team, and he said, look, I just don't like to drink beer, so I just don't do that bit. And some people are like that, and we can always,
and you have to accept it, right?
And we can accommodate that too. So
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If you don't want to do that, you can just hang out and eat the pizza afterwards. I mean, it's whatever. But the thing is that I realize that to a certain extent, there has to be certain cultural things that we allow, and we have to allow Kosovo culture from all communities to create their own culture within rugby as well. Yeah. And that helps. That's going to help. That goes with the grassroots bit.
It's really, I think, very admirable, like in terms of like you're bridging all kinds of gaps, right? Yeah. From already just like kind of providing that physical, like opportunity to do physical exercise within a team environment, where people are coming from different backgrounds, and then already trying to find a common language to kind of communicate within each other, on top of, yes, the rules kind of dictating, right? So I think it's certainly it's multi-layered. It's complicated, right? Yeah. But I think like it sounds very much like a very gratifying kind of journey that you and the girls have kind of embarked on, within these different communities. So where is there like, so I guess Revolution Rugby again is spearheading all these efforts with the different sponsors and other NGOs that are kind of cooperating. And, where can people find you guys?
Well, we're on Insta. Our clubs are on Insta at Mitrovica Dragons Rugby and also Pristina Jets Rugby.
Okay.
We are spinning off Revolution Rugby from Assist Kosovo, so it's going to be its own NGO. So we're going to set up its own. We're also on Facebook too. So Facebook and Insta. You can follow the clubs. And we're going to spin off Revolution Rugby, and we're going to make it its own foundation so that women's rugby here at least always is able to have money to back it, because that was a really big problem. Obviously is still always a problem is the money. But what I thought is that that Revolution Rugby will become its own NGO, which will support women's rugby here in Kosovo permanently.
Okay.
And so that's the idea of doing it and letting the clubs be independent and being able to run themselves eventually. Yeah.
Okay. So and just to kind of wrap things up, so you mentioned that there are a couple of tournaments that are coming up, yeah?
Yes. We're slightly nervous. But we're gonna be playing in Bar, Montenegro on the 14th.
Which is, you mean in 2 weeks' time?
God help us, yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And I thought it was 3, but thank you for reminding me it's 2. And then,
well, maybe 2.5, I think. But okay. But it's imminent then, yeah?
Imminent.
Yeah.
And then we're playing in Bulgaria in early August in Burgas, Bulgaria for the Burgas Beach tournament.
Okay, so two tournaments coming up. And to abroad as well for the teams to kind of.
Yeah, we hope to do a tournament at the end of April, as I said, for women in the West, in Pea and Klina and Istok in these areas.
Okay.
So we're going to see about that as well. So we're going to try and set that up, and then so could be some more in there. We're open to more tournaments, so we'll see what we're invited to.
Amazing, and I do have to remind myself this is your side hustle.
It's my side hustle. Yeah.
That's really cool. Amazing. Bronwyn, thank you so much
for
kind of enlightening me of this kind of, women's rugby, from the kind of birth of it to the journey that you've embarked on for the last, 5-6 years now?
Yeah.
I hope, the tournaments go well. And I look forward to kind of following the progress of the different teams.
Yeah, thank you so much. And definitely follow us on Insta and Facebook. Here we are, hoping to get more people to follow us. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bronwyn.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. That was another episode of Never the Right Time on Urban FM 103.5, 105.5 FM. Thank you, guys. See ya.